Welcome to Mornings with Matt, personal and professional development training that connects the art of acting with critical life skills and self-mastery. Presented by the Deering Acting Studio.
Good morning, everybody. It is just past 7 a.m. and you are watching Mornings with Matt. Today I've got one of the most amazing people on the planet. I might be a little biased, but she is my Aunt Vicki Sweeney. Hello, Vicki.
Hi, Matt. How are you this morning?
I am happy to be alive. Joey, can you give her a round of applause? Because she definitely deserves a round
sure will.
of applause. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure you recognize that wonderful voice in the intro because you gave birth to him, I believe.
As my son, Joey, and I'm very excited.
So tell me, Vicki, what's going on with you right now?
Well, I am currently living in Arizona in Scottsdale, living with my mother, who's 93, and actually my brother lives here too.
So how's it going with Grandma? How's she doing? How's her head game?
Matt, she really is doing pretty well considering she's 93. She gets around and on her own, and we just help her with the little things. And so she's doing quite well, actually.
My wife she's always been a huge admirer of Grandma Jean, because she's a grandma-in-law, I guess you would call her, and she always tells me that she's just amazed at how much Grandma's accomplished in her life and how much she does. It seems like when she goes out and she always has that upbeat spirit. I know at home, she's got to have to fight some demons, and as far as especially with that now not being able to go out that much, but when she is out and about, Grandma's always, she is just always got a smile on her face, lifting people up. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman.
That's how I've been so lucky in my life, Matt. Many people don't have what I have. I was raised in a great family, two wonderful parents. I lost my father, but like you said, my mother's still going at 93, and I have 4 brothers, no sisters. So there you go there. And then I got married, and I have 3 sons, 2 of which were for you, Brian and Joey.
Yeah.
And my other son, Jimmy, lives in Colorado, and he is teaching science. So he's very excited there.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think, is doing a really good job out there in Colorado, it seems like, and having a lot of fun, too. So we're all pretty happy for him and rooting for him.
Yep, he's a great kid. And he did a lot for this family before, gave up a lot. And so it was hard for me to, at first, let him go. But after I came to my senses, so to speak, he went to Colorado, and he's very happy there. So
did somebody help you with that mindset shift with Jimmy?
They did. Someone named Matt Deering.
Was it me? I don't remember it being me, actually. That's funny. I wasn't trying to compliment myself.
You did a lot of the positivity,
Okay.
Whereas then I could switch over, because it was still in my mind that I was sort of still, I love him, and I was proud of him, and I'm always proud of them in anything that they do. But it is tough as a mom to let go of someone who you love so much. And so the lonesomeness, there wasn't really the emptiness nest because he wasn't really living with me, but I saw him all the time.
Yeah.
So that was tough. And then,
but it could feel like that, though. This idea of letting go, I think this is a huge, huge deal, and maybe something you and I might approach today in today's show, because we're also going to talk about gaining new skill sets at any phase of life, and having that be something that you look forward to and you make a priority. This idea of letting go of loved ones is massive. It actually changed my life completely. To me, it's about faith, actually. So it comes back to this idea of if you really believe in God, then you understand that nothing actually belongs to you anyway, including your kids, including your parent. Like, they're not yours. Like, they never were yours. They're there to support you and help you, but you don't get possession over them. And I think about when you're willing to let somebody go, it can be the most selfless act of love that you could possibly go through. And so So yeah, and then when you let somebody go, you give them the freedom, you give them the ability to fly from there, and then they're from that place they get to come back. So they'll get to come back and then take care of you, or be back with you in a new way as they've then found themselves.
Sure. And, in speaking of that, I'm one of those people, and I think there's a lot of people like me. I like to do things for other people over myself. And so that's a great thing. It's sort of like to pay it forward, Matt. But sometimes, as you showed to me, positivity doesn't actually mean what I thought and others might think that it means. Um, when we had the talk and, went way back and, you said to me I wasn't very positive and it like hurt. But after it clicked in and we had our talk, I realized, he has a point. So then I started to try it, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily chore, and it's taking baby steps. Sometimes you'll fall back, and then you just have to get back up and go forward. And I've had a lot of moving forward, and then I've had some steps back, but then you got to get back up. That's one of the things I think is hard, is that in your mindset, you hold everything in and you think you're solving everyone's problems, but inside you're not taking care of yourself. And if you can't take care of yourself first, then you really can't help others. And that's one thing that you sort of got into my mind, and it's really, really helped me. So I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'll give our listeners a little bit of context here. So my Aunt Vicki and I were speaking outside of our studio one afternoon, and this topic came up, and like I do sometimes, I was just bluntly honest, and I asked if she wanted it. She said yeah, and so I just let her know, like, in my opinion, she wasn't what I would consider a positive person at the time. I actually would now, but I wouldn't have considered you a positive person at the time, and I knew that it sort of didn't resonate well with you, but then I clarified. At the same time, I believed you were the most generous human being that I knew, actually, and I mean that. If there was anybody that would give me the shirt off their back, it would be Aunt Vicki, like, guaranteed. You'd give me your last dollar, you'd give me anything. I know that about you, and I think anybody who knows you knows that about you. So it was almost like you were generous to a fault, which is a great thing. But all from doing so much outward, like, pushing of love, it was my opinion that you weren't taking care of you on the inside, and so you weren't loving you, and so there was a lot of just there's pent up, like, tightness and whatnot, and I don't really see that in you anymore. So you would, when you would come and see me, I think I would maybe be a beacon of something where you could release some of that tension. And so I would pick up on it, and now I see you having really done the work, and you seem completely relaxed. You seem happier, and I do agree it's a daily choice. I mean, absolutely. But I've watched you transform, and right in front of my eyes over, I don't think it's only been about 3 or 4 months now, and you seem happier. You seem lighter. You seem like you've got more energy. It seems to me like your relationships are better, just like all the way around. Your life has just been impacted, but you've done the work, but you've elevated, so to speak.
Yeah, and it all came back to you saying, you can't control other people in your life and the things that have happened already. You have no control over that, and coming back to your faith in God, we don't have any control over when we're going to go, or what's going to happen tomorrow. Only he knows that, and so it's very difficult sometimes to accept that, because I would try to fix everything. So if there was an issue with something, or somebody did something to me, then I never really got angry or mad. I just, I'd be upset and then let it go. But it really wasn't going anywhere. It was just kind of staying in me. And then when something else would come up, then that would trigger it, and it would just blow up.
Right.
So
Yeah, because then it would be this. So what I call that is this like pile up, right? So in acting, there's actually a thing called the pile up that you're supposed to do on purpose to let yourself get to this like big rage point, or even just any big emotion. You let things pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up, and that's a technique we do on purpose to try to like show big feelings, right? Well, that's what you were doing in life, is you were letting things pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up, and then what's interesting is the trigger didn't need to be a big thing. It could just be a little like, feather, and then and then that could be the explosion. That's the that's the end result right there that just sort of blows everything up. So, yeah, it's interesting what happens, and I think that the key to that, and I think this is one of your questions actually. You asked me something about this, didn't you? About dealing with.
Yes.
Let me hear that question exactly, so then I can answer.
Okay, let's see. I'm looking on the wrong one. Okay, yeah, I said when you're working on your positivity, how do you handle it when it just keeps piling up? One thing after another, and you think that, like I felt like, oh, okay, I'm doing well. And then you go out into the day and boom, you get a phone call.
Right.
And it's just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. And then, you may make it to try to solve that one thing, and then boom, something else happens. And it's like, I don't understand,
Yeah.
what's happening to me. I'm doing my positivity thing. So I don't understand. How do I do
Yeah.
if I'm being so positive, why is this happening to me?
Yeah. So good. This exactly is what we're talking about, right? It's this pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up. So here's I believe is the secret to this, and it's go ahead and let yourself feel early. So then it doesn't pile up. That's the goal. So when things come up, if we try to shrug them off and just be positive and say, oh, like, positivity, and like you try to hide it, it doesn't work out. And instead, it's like, this thing hit me right now. Let me really talk about it. Let me really be honest about how I'm feeling and try to release that feeling. And usually even the more people you can tell that you really love, as long as you're not doing it in a way that's trying to get this like, feel sorry for me attitude, but you're actually looking to release without putting it on someone else. Because you can actually do that to people. You can release all this that you have going on inside of you, and then you could put it on somebody. And you don't really want to do that either, because you don't want them to be carrying the stuff either, right? And that's been something I've had to work on really hard over the last couple years, as I'm getting better and better at this and helping people release their stuff, is not wearing it and taking it home with me, because that would be something that would happen. We'd have, whatever it be, 50 students a day coming through here, and, we're helping them release all this energy here, and then we'd be carrying it. And so we've been working really hard on the reverse process, on not like letting that happen, but then not wearing it on our shoulders. So
I think that's a great point, Matt, because when you say it that way, instead of letting it go, I would be positive about it, and then it would stay, like you say. It never went away, and then it would build up. It's like, I can't believe this is happening, And then by the time you would share it with somebody, you were so hot on the subject that, you were giving it to them, really.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a great example from yesterday. So I went home in the middle of the day in a great mood. I was feeling great. I just was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go. I have the time. I'm going to go spend an hour and a half with my kids and my wife before I come back in here and teach. And so I go home, and I'm playing remote control helicopters with my son, which is like one of my new favorite hobbies. And one of the helicopters is broken. And my sister Kelly, to her credit, has been one of the most positive people I've known over the last year or so. She's made some major life changes and mindset changes as well. And so I thought maybe she was the one that got him the helicopter, and I was going to ask her where she got them so I could take it back and replace it. So I call her, and you know how it is. She answers the phone, and immediately I could hear something in her voice. She's like, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh, what? Everything okay?" And then next thing you know, she needed to talk, and so it was about a half hour. It was half of my at-home time was spent just listening to what she had going on, and for her it was very heavy, and so that sort of came through the phone, and I hung up. And here's the thing. So I couldn't hide it. I was worn out. I became tired. I almost became a little bit sad. And so what did I do? I turned to Leanne and I just told her. I said, hey, I feel all of a sudden I'm feeling really heavy. I feel really tired. And she's like, let me make you a quesadilla. I was like, that's great. And then I just kind of laid down for a second, and I just needed that time to close my eyes. But I also spoke it out loud. I let the world know, hey, this is how I feel. Now I'm gonna let myself feel it and release it. So it took a little bit of a process to do that. And then after that, I reached out to the team here and I said, hey, and it was a text message. Here's how I'm feeling. I could use this little bit of rest time and whatnot. Is there any way you guys could lift me up and help me out in this and this area? I get these positive text messages back. Hey, we got you. Like, you're good. You stay home. And what was interesting is just that process alone right there snapped me into a really good mood. And I popped myself up and I came in right away. They're like, you don't need to come in. I'm like, I got you. And I took a photo of myself like a superhero. And then I drove right back in. And so it was this process of releasing and asking for help that then made me feel better. So then I was filled up. Then I could go back and give. So that's that process, and it happens quickly. Now, had I kept that in and tried to pretend like it wasn't true and tried to play with my kids, but I was feeling worn out and tried to pretend like I was Superman, then something would have happened. Somebody would have said something small to me, and that's when I catch myself snapping accidentally and saying something I didn't mean to say or whatever. So it's not about not feeling. It's about trying to process the feelings quickly, be honest about them, and then release them. So that's that quick process that stops you from piling up and making something small bigger than it needs to be.
Okay. Well, that's very helpful because, like I said, I was on the, put it aside, leave it alone, kind of thing. And then you can't change it, be positive, and then something else would come up. And I'm like, there's too many of these little bubbles I have right now.
Yeah.
And I say bubbles, I'm just like, I can't control them.
Right.
So I put them aside and, and move on. Doesn't mean I don't care for the person or whatever the incident was. I just can't, I can't change it. So I have to just put it aside.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe even if we rephrase that, because I know you feel this way, when you say put it aside, it's almost like I'm just going to send love that way, but that's all I can do. I can't
That's
do more than that, right? I'll just love and I'll love and I'll love and I'll love, but I can't go in there and do it for you. You got to do the work, You and I had that conversation when we first started our work together. Mm-hmm. I said, I'll love you and I'll do whatever, but you got to do the work. You come to me, and then of course, I will help. I would give you the shirt off my back as well. But I can't do it for you. And to your credit, you kept doing it. I mean, you kept showing up. You kept sending me text messages. I mean, all kinds of things. And you've gone above and beyond in this area because I know it's something you wanted to change. And you're 100% doing it. I mean, you are committed now, and I watch you, to filling your brain up with things that are good, that are positive, that are uplifting. And that's one of the biggest things is what you put in comes out.
And I was recently at work. I'm at Bashas here in Scottsdale, and I was injured, and I've never had a back injury, and I feel for those that have it, but it was excruciating pain, and I'm not one to let people know, or I just kind of try to keep it in, and this one was just uncontrollable, and so then when you get home and you're trying to be positive, and you got all this pain going on and you're still trying to work through it, it's hard, to be positive because it's easier to, lay around, so to speak, because you sort of have in your mind an excuse. It's like, oh, well, I was hurt, so I'm okay to stay here for 25 days in the bed,
Yeah.
just get up to eat or whatever. And, a lot of people, besides the Deering Studio and you and my family has helped me with that. I've gone to physical training, and they are like right there for me every day that I go twice a week, and it's like, they care. It is just something that, you don't always feel when you go to places like a doctor or other things. They just take care of you, and they know your name when you come in, all of the people, not just your therapist. And they care. It's like, it's a genuine care. It's not like, oh, she's here today, I got to fix her back and her leg, okay, bye, have a good day, see you next time. It's not that. They want to know about your life and what went on and how you're feeling today and what can I do to help you. Did you do your exercises? Did it help? And right now, the place I've been going to is Foothills Sports Medicine Therapy, and they're just phenomenal there. And
that's Foothills Sports Medicine Physical Therapy.
Yes.
And that's out in Scottsdale.
It's out in Scottsdale, and I go to actually, he's the owner. His name is Matt. There are a lot of other physical therapists there that you work with as well if you want, and they're all phenomenal. They just have a genuineness to them that you don't always find.
Yeah, yeah, and then back to crediting you here, you did get out of bed. You did make the decision to get up and go start doing physical therapy, and like you said, you could have just stayed in bed for 25 days. But you decided to get up and do something, and now you've surrounded yourself with people who are going to help you and lift you up in different areas. And the more you do that, the more you make those choices, it all becomes this compound effect. It adds on top of each other. People don't understand how much these little tiny choices make such a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Foothills Sports Medicine Physical Therapy, I think we should just let people know how to find them. And they're open right now, and a physical therapist office are open. So for those people who don't know this, right now the physical therapist office is open. It is an essential business, absolutely. So if you've been not taking care of yourself in this way, go see your physical therapist. It's really important. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see mine, who's up here on this side of town. But over in Scottsdale, you should go here. It's foothillsrehab.com. That is www.foothillsrehab.com. That is Foothills Sports Medicine Physical Therapy, and they are highly recommended by none other than my Aunt Vicki. So that's a huge recommendation. All right, good. Let's move on to the next question you got here, Vic.
Oh, okay, yeah. Alrighty then. Okay, so one of the things I had was dealing with self-confidence, and a lot of people would think that I have that, because of my personality. I'm pretty friendly, and when I go into a room, everybody goes, "Oh, you light it up," and you're so friendly, and you smile, and everybody loves you, and this and that. But inside, really, the confidence is not really there, and so when you're asked to do something that's out of your realm of what you've already prepared, I have some difficulty in that. And that's one thing with the Deering Studio, that when I started the classes, it helped me, because the first night at classes, we weren't in quarantine. And so, I had to actually go to the studio, and there were other people there, and I didn't know any of them. And so it was just like, okay, everybody get up and we're going to do this. And it's like, oh, okay. But I have never done this. So.
We've got a wonderful video on our Instagram story right now of my mom in her first class dancing in the circle. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, so what's the question when it revolves around confidence?
Well, how do you get the confidence to be able to do an improv? If you're like not confident inside so much, how are you able to step on a stage and work with other people?
Yeah. So I think this is a huge area for a lot of people, and so it's a good topic here. There's such a thing, I believe, is called false confidence, and so people want to often portray that they are confident or that they know something when they really don't, because they don't want to go through what they think is going to be the shame and embarrassment of not knowing. So we'll take you as an example here. So let's just imagine that you've been in the arts for however many years. Let's call it 30 years. You've been training and working and You've literally been teaching it for over 25 years. And so you might think in your mind, in your subconscious, you might think, if I don't know something in front of all these people, that's embarrassing to me. That makes me look bad. And so therefore you try to pretend like you know it and then try to learn really quick, and you probably do, and then you kind of do it. But the whole time you're trying to cover up, you know you're being fake, and the people around you know you're being fake. So you think you're doing a good job covering it up, but oftentimes you're not, right? And so the idea, I think this is the absolute key to confidence, is walk into every room with an I don't know perspective. And this is what I do. This is how I can land any client on the planet. If I walk in there to try to sell our program to them, I don't sell it. I never sell. I walk in with an I don't know perspective, and I listen. And they say, it usually goes something like this. So how are you guys, how's your program going to help us? I don't know. Tell me about what's going on. Because the truth is, I don't know. That's the truth. The truth is, if I walked into, the Pepsi Corporation right now, and they said, how is your program going to impact the Pepsi Corporation? The truth is, I don't know. Do I believe I can help them? I 100% do. If I get in the room with the Pepsi executives, we're going to be better when I leave the room, guarantee. But I don't know what they got going on. I don't know what their issue is. I don't know where their strengths are, their weaknesses, and whatnot. What I need to do is walk in the room and listen. I need to see how the interactions are going. So is the team camaraderie really good, or is it toxic? Is the communication really good, or is it lacking? Is there one bad seed that's kind of like infecting everybody else? Like, those are the types of things I need to know first. Once I figure that out, then I can customize a program that can sort of fix whatever the issue is at its core, so that they see long-term results. But if I walk in going, yep, my program's the best and it's just going to work for everybody because it works with everybody, and blah, 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 to me it's very unattractive. And even if I get the sale, it makes me nervous because I walk in going like I'm trying to prove myself, when I don't need to do that. I just need to come in and be humble. So, and then I love admitting right away when I don't know something. So especially in my own field. So I'll be teaching, and this will happen sometimes, where I'll be teaching a scene or something, and then a student will go, but they say this next, and I go, really? Well, yeah. And can I see your play? And then they'll show me the play. I'll look at it and go, wow, you're right. I'm like, well, I've been teaching it wrong for 20 years. Cool. Let's rewind. And then I look at it again, and I'm like, okay. But even if this is true, there's a reason I stopped the scene. There was something about the scene that didn't feel right. Why? Then we'll deal with that problem. I'm not trying to prove that I'm right. Matter of fact, I'll admit, hey, I was wrong on this. I'm not perfect. I must have missed that. But now let's go back and deal with the fact that something in here didn't feel right. So now with this new piece of information that I have that you gifted me with, thank you. Now let's deal with what's new. And that enables people to trust you, because they trust when you say you know, you really know. And you become excited to learn, excited to listen. So then you give somebody else the chance to teach. Right? So let's take your kids here who are so wonderful, and Joey's been teaching you technology, and Brian's been teaching acting and whatnot, and it can be weird because like, oh, that's my son, like I taught him, and da-da-da-da. But if you reverse that feeling and you go, how neat is this for me to turn around and learn from my son something that I love, and he happens to have gone further than me in a very particular niche area. It's not like he could teach you everything, but there may be a few things he knows. Let me just learn that. Let me be excited to learn. Let me admit that there's things I don't know. Then that's where I think true confidence comes from, because you're being fully honest. You're being fully transparent. Like, this is what I know, this is what I don't know. And then you can really go for it from that point of view.
And you gotta give credit to her once again, because she did that. So she stayed at our house this last week for 3 or 4 days while Brian was sick, and she was like, "Hey, Well, listen, if you could just scratch out like 30 minutes for me, I would really love it if you could teach me how to do Zoom on for our classes because I always mess it up. And she just started with that. And so then I literally gave her like a 30-minute private lesson on the tech of it. We talked it through, and she was perfect last night. Didn't have any problems. And it goes to show, like, you reach out for the help to the right people, and you ask from a humble place, and it's uplifting for both of you. Like, it was just really cool that she did that, and she's doing that. And having her over this last week was one of my favorite times ever spending time with her. It was just a lot of fun because she was in that positive place, and she came in here and we had dinner together, and she did her work while I did my work, and that's just something that I wouldn't have seen us doing before. She went into this deeper level of positivity and connected deeper into this space, you know, so.
Thanks
cool.
for sharing, Joey.
Yeah.
See, that's amazing. Look at that, Vicki. So you're already, your relationships, like I was saying, your relationships are growing and developing and changing. And I had mentioned this to you when you and I talked, and it was harsh at the moment. But I said, when you just continue to unload and unload and unload and unload, you know, it's hard for people to be excited to talk to you. And what you were unloading on me was negative about you. Right? You were not saying anything about anybody else, but you were sort of ripping on you, like I'm this and I'm that and I got this and I got that. And I told you, I said, I love you. Like, I love you a lot, right? So why would I want to hang out with someone who's ripping on someone who I love, who's tearing down somebody I love? I would never want to hang out with that person. So if I love Vicki and Vicki's ripping on Vicki, I'm like, I don't want to hang out with Vicki because I love Vicki too much that I don't want to watch her rip on herself, you know? Like, it's not fun for me, right? And that was one of those things that was like, okay, we gotta change this and what's going on and what I'm saying out loud. And yeah, I mean, look at the fruit of that labor. I mean, that's unbelievable. Very cool.
Well, and that was part of the self-confidence, I think, that you helped me gain. You know, I'm still not there, you know, and I know that.
Well, let me give you a clue,
myself.
Vicki. You never will be. So that's the exciting part. So that's not a shameful thing to say. I never, you know, I'm not there yet. Instead, get excited about it. Like, listen to me right now. I'm not there. I never will be, and I'm really excited about it because that means there's more to learn. There's more to grow, right? So I know that this show, it ain't perfect. You know, we're going to get better. And we've already gotten better. If you go back to day one, I mean, Joey actually put up a video on Instagram of the first episode.
It's so bad.
It's hilarious because it's not on YouTube anymore. But the beginning was me going, well, I guess we're not going to get started yet. Like, that was live. Like, that was on the live. We didn't know we were live yet. I mean, it's hilarious. Like, we were just, and so we've already grown and developed like a ton. And but I know that it's still, I mean, we're nowhere close to where some people are, and fine. But it's not about getting there. That's the thing. When you figure that out, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. You only feel good about you when you are progressing, when you are getting better. That's it. Period. So what and this is why I'm so worried about people right now is because we've been locked up. We've been told to stay in our homes. We've been, you know, frozen. Those people who are not growing and developing, or not growing and developing at the pace that they're used to, it can be very debilitating. And you have to find new ways to grow and develop, and new ways to activate your mind. And things are going to get in your way always in life. So let's take you with your back injury. So we've got the back injury. It's taking you way back. So then you go, how can I grow and develop? Okay, physical therapy. I got to go to my physical therapist. Good. How else? Okay, when I come home, maybe I'm sore. I can't move around. Okay, let me develop my mind. Let me learn a new skill. Let me learn the Zoom. You know, whatever it is. Like, let me learn that thing, because I know that that's going to have a huge impact on my life in the future. And so you start feeling good by going through the process of struggling. And again, like, it's such a weird concept to wrap your mind around. But the idea is, once you get to the thing you think you want, the goal, it's always a letdown unless you have the next goal and you're already working toward it. Because what happens? You get the reward, you get the trophy, whatever, and then what? Then you're like, okay, now what? And you feel unfulfilled because you have no purpose anymore, right? So really, you just focus on this is a learning curve. This is something that's never going to end. This journey of mine. But let me pat myself on the back right now, because my relationship with my sons is changing and evolving and growing, and they want to be around me. Like, that's huge. Like they like my youngest son is saying, "Oh, I love when my mom comes over." Like, who gets to say that? There's not that many moms who have a 20-year-old son who are like, "Man, I love it when my mom comes over for three days and stays the night and hangs out with me because she's so positive and fun." Like, there's very few moms out in the world that could say that.
And I really do appreciate that comment, Joey. 'Cause that does mean a lot to me, because it's hard too when you're not with them, then you go there and you're in their space now, so you're not sure, it's like their house, it's not yours anymore, and so it's like, what are my boundaries here?
And you know what's the perfect perspective? How do you walk in the room?
I don't know.
That's right. That's exactly right. And what a great way to walk into your kid's room. I mean, for everybody out there watching right now, you walk into your child's place, you should walk in with an I don't know perspective and ask, "Hey, would you like me to take my shoes off on the way in?" I don't do it at my house, but do you want? I mean, ask the questions, be respectful in that way, and don't walk in like you own the place.
Right.
And how many times have we heard of like the mother-in-law like being made fun of in TV shows and whatnot because they walk in like they own the place and it's theirs and whatnot, and they're not walking in from an I don't know perspective. Because if you walk in from I don't know, you assess the situation and you figure out, this is how I could be most helpful. And all of a sudden, then you're the mother-in-law who is sought out by her daughter-in-law, saying, "Please come help when the baby's born." And you know exactly how to operate, what to do, how to serve, and you are being asked to show up versus being like, "When is your mom gonna leave?"
I hope that never happens.
Well, but it happens to many people. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Does.
So you just don't want it to be you. So
And part of that, Matt, is your upbringing, I believe. And I told you that I grew up in a wonderful family, and we have faith, in God, and a strong connection to each other. And a lot of families don't have that. And so I can tell you that when I first went to Wickenburg and then started teaching, I told them, I can't do this. I'm not a teacher. That's not what my bag is, And they're like, "Well, we think you can, and we'd like you to." So I gave it a shot, going in there like, I don't know, And the first thing, one of the biggest things is like, you're going into a room, they're all taller than you. This is high school, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to be telling them what to do. You have to kind of change your attitude. But I didn't know really how to, because I just always am smiley, "Hey kids, how's it going?" And everybody would say, "Do not go in that room with that kind of attitude, or you are going to have the rest of your school year. It's going to be bad." And so, I just couldn't do it. I was nice. And and then I learned, I should have listened to them. There's different ways to handle a room, like you say, read the room, And what I found out is that my life is different than other people's. But I grew up in a family that was so close, and I stayed home till I got married, which is very unusual. So I never lived out in the world on my own as such. And that's very difficult. And I think other people might find that. So when kids were doing things that I was like, I can't believe they're saying this to me. Who says that? My kids would never say that, And it's like, what do you do? And that was a big opening light bulb for me. It's like, the world isn't my little tiny bubble I've been living in. Better wake up.
Yeah. And that's a really good point there. All right, so for our time's sake here, I think we should get to one more question, and I think one that's a really good one for you that can really potentially help some other people is you mentioned something about technology, and we sort of touched on it a little bit, but go ahead and phrase that question for me so that I can really address that.
I'll say, let me find which one it is. Okay, I put in there that I'm not very good about technology, and I feel it holds me back in what I'm doing, especially if I'm trying to move forward. It didn't before because I didn't need it.
Right.
But now I feel it does. And so I was asking you, like, how can I work on that? What's going to be helpful for me?
Yeah.
To be able to move forward with it.
Sure. So what's interesting is you sort of have now already done it by reaching out to Joey and asking for help and saying, "Hey, can you give me this lesson on this?" The next step for you is to make sure that you never get behind again, and make sure that you're not playing the victim. Be very careful with what you say out loud when it comes to technology. So it's the same as anything else. You don't want to say, I can't do this, or every time I do this, this goes wrong. Like, saying those things out loud will bring negativity. So instead, every time you run into a problem, stop for a second and ask for help. There is somebody out there that's always willing to help you besides God, because God is definitely there for you. The other person that's there, his name is Google, and you can ask him you can ask him anything. And I always say that, like, when somebody comes to me and asks me, I'm happy to help, but I always ask, did you ask Google first?
He does.
Did you ask? Because if you didn't, I don't want to say it can't be done. Like, don't tell me it can't be done. Let's take Joey. Joey's sick of hearing this. But
it was a very stick point at first for the two of us.
Yeah, because here's the deal. Joey, I would say, Joey, edit the video in this way. Let's make this change. He goes, you can't do that. And I'm going, really? You telling me that if I asked Steven Spielberg to do this, he couldn't find a way to edit that in? And he's like, I mean, maybe, it's like, well, of course he could, because he's better than you. Like, of course. Now, what you could say instead is, I don't know how to do that. I could look it up. That's going to cost us 2 days worth of editing because I'm not as good as Steven Spielberg. Is it worth it for us to do this little edit change that will cost us 2 days? Or would you rather me not do that and get 2 other videos edited? That's a better way to phrase it to your boss. And then I'm going to go, okay, no, I don't want to wait 2 days for this change. But rather than just blankly saying quickly, nah, that can't happen. I can't do that. That's impossible kind of thing. Anything's possible. You just have to open your mind to it and look for the answer. So we're running into problems, right? The idea here is to go, what is something that I can do that will make everything I do from now on easier, or I won't have to stress over it anymore? So when it comes to let's just say Zoom technology in general, what could I do? All right, so you asked Joey for help. You took the little lesson. Great. The next day, you need to do it again. You need to repeat the process. You need to look up on Google, how do I do Zoom? What happens if this happens? Like, and understand the why behind the technology. Then start your own meeting. So just say, hey, friend of mine, whoever it is, can I set up a Zoom call with you and try to call you and fail and fail and fail and then get it right? Then you'll know what's going on the other end, so you're not afraid of it anymore, and you start to understand it. Once you understand the concept, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to develop the software. You just need to know enough to not run into all those stick points and to put yourself in this place, because a lot of times what happens is, especially as we get older, we let go of, like, we stop trying to progress, and we're all guilty of it. So let's take your son Brian over here. He's become the TikTok guy, and I'm like, TikTok, like, what a stupid name for a social media thing, TikTok, And then I'm like, Brian, what are you doing? And he's like, dude, I got like 1 billion followers. And I'm like, what? Like, TikTok? He's like, TikTok, man. But that was my limited belief. That was me being a pessimist. That was me dealing with my own stress in a negative way. So I saw it as like, oh my gosh, one more thing that I got to manage. This is one more thing that I got to stress over for our company. And like, the last thing I want to do is add another social media channel. And like, are you kidding me? That's what's going on in my mind. But instead of admitting that I was afraid of it, I instead brought negativity toward it and said, that we're not doing that. We can't do that. That's not useful to, that's all lies. So instead, now I've flipped my mind on it, and I've changed, and now we're kind of working together on this and going, okay, how can we spread light and love through this new format, TikTok, which is legitimate, that could reach a different demographic of human beings who need to hear this information, that need this type of light and love in their lives in a new and different way. So how can we inspire them through 15-second dance songs, but actually get them to be excited about their lives, and even like inspire them to get off of it? I mean, that would be a really good thing. So there's so many ways that you can then change your mindset and be honest with yourself. Okay, this is really why this is happening. So I guarantee you, let's take Facebook, for instance. You could take free online courses for Facebook. You could take them every day for 3 weeks, and you would know most of what you need to know, and you'd probably know more than most people just by doing that one thing. And it'd be free, and it'd be easy, and it'd be enjoyable. And by the end, you could then have a skill that becomes valuable. And now it's like, oh, like I could actually help in this way. Like you might even reach out to us and go, hey guys, I don't know if you knew this or not, but you could actually be doing this with your Facebook, and it might be like a huge game changer for you guys. I don't know if you're already doing this. Those are massive ways, and you could end up helping your sports therapy, place. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can impact people if you change your mindset about the technology and say, okay, this is what it's used for. We even talked to George Bennett yesterday, who is
yeah, he was great yesterday.
Great guest, and he came on and he was talking about technology because he was in that field. And when he started, there were literally no computers, so he was walking door to door making sales, right? Well, now he admitted, he goes, I've worked really hard to keep up with technology, because if I didn't understand technology, I'm out. Like literally, I'm a dinosaur, and there's no use for me anymore. So he made that a priority. I see people like my wife's mother does this. She'll when she gets her iPhone, she goes to the Apple store, she schedules classes, and she sits down, and it's a struggle for her, but she goes through the process of learning the iPhone instead of calling me, instead of calling her other sons, instead of calling Leanne and going, I can't figure this out, and blah blah. Like she's not that way. She'll go find a way. She understands, hey, this is above my pay grade here. This is not something I know. Her pay grade, I mean, she's a nurse practitioner, but this new technology is not something that comes easy to her. So she'll go, I'm going to do something about it. And that's what you want to put in your mind, is like, okay, I'm just going to push forward. So the one thing I really wanted to say on this topic before we wrap the show is there's this concept called the Pareto principle. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's fascinating, and it's absolutely true. So it's called the 80-20 rule. So if you write this down, called the 80-20 rule. 80% of your outputs come from 20% of your inputs. 80% of your output comes from 20% of your input. Okay. So if we put this into a business sense, it would be 80% of of a business's income would come from 20% of their clients. And that's about true in all areas of life. It's an 80-20 rule. So if you figure out what is the 20% in whatever I'm going to be doing to get 80% of the results, the other 20% you probably don't need to know unless you're going to be an expert in that area. So I'm gonna take me right now. We found a major weakness in our company when this whole like pandemic thing came through, and it's something that I would have probably never seen before, or just not taken as much notice of. But because I had the time to look at it, we were really weak in the way that our digital presence was connecting to each other, and I didn't understand the interweb, the way it revolved around our business. So we had our website, and we had all of our different channels and different things, but they were not connected seamlessly in a way that the internet understood. Okay, and I'll explain this to you very, very quickly. There's this idea of this internet spider, and the internet spider crawls down one of your sites, and then it needs to go to the other sites to tell the other sites, like, oh, this is all the same thing, and then it gives you a ranking in something like in a search engine like Google. So then it will lift you up and go, oh, this company does all this thing related to acting and personal development. And the spider can crawl around and do that. Well, what happened was the spider would crawl down to one of our sites, and then it had no bridge to get to the other thing. So it thought this thing was its own thing, and this thing was its own thing, and this thing was its own thing. So we were trying to rank in like 50 different things, but instead of using it all into one thing, right? And so that's the the easy example of this. Well, that principle is called search engine optimization. It's like, it goes back to coding. It goes back to like the core of our website and hosting, and like all these things that, seriously, Vicki, I don't understand. I was really scared of. I've been scared of these things for 10 years. I knew they were an issue. I just did something about it finally. And I've spent the last week putting myself through boot camp for search engine optimization. My eyeballs want to pop out. They're red from all the work I've been doing, staring at things, trying to undo things, trying to redo things, trying to learn things. But I'm putting the work in really to get, and I don't need to know everything. I really don't. I need to know 20% to get 80% of the output. I don't have to become an expert, because I'm not going to open an SEO company. but I need to know it enough so that the next time I hire somebody to do this work, I can cross-check their work and I know if they're doing it right. I need to put in the 20% work to understand the concept, so that way I can get the result. And if I want somebody to push us further, I can do that, no problem. But if I just say lazy Matt is not going to learn the thing, then I'll hire somebody. But whose fault it is if they don't do it right? It's my fault, not theirs. So that's this idea of taking accountability and find out what's the 20%. Yeah. So for Zoom, what do I need to know? What's 20% of what I need to know about this? I don't need to know every little gadget, every little thing. If I go down every little list of all the options, I don't need to know all that. What's 20% of what I really need to know to get 80% of the joy from Zoom, from Facebook, from whatever technology it is? And then it becomes less overwhelming to you, and you can really enjoy the process.
Yeah, and it goes back, I think, to, like you said, when George was talking yesterday, the people that are older, we didn't have that technology. You know, this is a new thing to us. So when I actually first teaching, I never saw an email, never needed it, never used it. You know, really, I just didn't. And so then, you know, I was asked to use it, and I was so frustrated one night. I was in the room, you know, in the office, and I'm looking at this computer, and there's all these emails, people asking me questions. Miss Sweeney. And I was so frustrated, Matt, because I didn't know how to use it. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking up the people's names in phone books to answer their questions, because that's what we did.
Right.
You know, we used to. And then a coworker came in and said, "What's up, Vic? You know, why are you so frustrated?" I'm like, "Look," I said, "Mark, I mean, take a look at this screen." I said, "I got all these emails, and not one person left me a phone number. Who wants an answer and doesn't leave me a phone number?" And he just started kind of laughing, you know. He goes, "Okay, let me just show you this." And
you just hit the button, your reply button, and then you write back. Yeah.
And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? I've just been in here for 5 hours trying to figure out people's addresses."
So let's go back, Vicki. Let's go back to your core problem, or what it was, and that is asking for help.
Right.
You've passed this on to your oldest son, by the way. He's here, and I'm going to talk about him right in front of his face. He has the same problem. So he waits too long to ask for help. And then he gets himself all frustrated in a big state, and it can actually turn the whole place into negativity if we're not careful. So you shouldn't have waited 5 hours. You should have looked at it. Instead of being frustrated, you should have looked at it and go, "I don't understand this thing. Let me humble myself and be honest and not try to pretend like I know something I don't know, and go ask for help immediately and go, hey, I'm new to this. Would you mind showing me how this thing works?" Boom, done. And you don't waste 5 hours. You're not frustrated. And you're not doing this, because this like tightening thing, you know, it can be very bad for your body. Really, it's very bad for your soul and your mind. And like this tightening, it's a big deal. You want to try to stay relaxed, try to stay loose. And so by admitting I don't know, by getting there quickly, it's easy to then get through the thing, and trust me, you're going to get through it faster. Are you going to be frustrated? I mean, maybe, but at least you're on the right track, and you would have spent the 5 hours in a learning state instead of a frustration banging your head against the table state.
Right. And I understand that, you know, now, and since, you know, I've changed a lot of things, you know, and I've come to figure out that you have to do it yourself, like what you were saying.
That's right. But you got to ask for help, and this is human nature. So we all have to admit that we're capable of this. Like I just admitted it about TikTok, right? I just said it out loud, and I guarantee you it's going to come up tomorrow or the next day. Something's going to come up, and I'm going to automatically judge it because of my fear or something, right? The idea though is to understand that we're capable of doing that, and instead of automatically judging, I call it the absolute mentality. If I absolutely already know something about something and I cannot have my mind changed, then there's no way I can grow. There's no way that I'll ever be able to have fun in this area, and I've seen it all the way down to the child level, because we'll take my oldest son now. He went through about a year phase where, and I think it's because he heard a friend of his say something about something. He went through a year phase where he was like, we would bring up a movie, and if it was animated, he'd go, "No, I don't want to see it." I'm like, "Really? It's like Toy Story 4. Like, it looks pretty good." He's like, "Nah, I'm not into it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're not going to take you to a movie you don't want to see." And even though we really wanted to see it, we didn't go. But it turns out, like, why? He had made an absolute decision that anything animated was baby. Anything animated was for little kids.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So somebody put that in his mind, and so he has an absolute mentality, and that absolute mentality would stop him from enjoying movies that would actually be enjoyable to him. That you just translate that same perspective and take that to me up here all the way to TikTok and go, Matt, your perspective on this thing is stopping you from enjoying this platform potentially with your cousins, and you guys could create something that's really fun and funny, and you could impact the world, and you could be, you know, like reaching kids in a new way. But I wasn't telling myself that story. I was telling myself a different story, right? So we all have to just be very careful about what we're telling our minds, and then try so hard not to get in that position again. Because had you been progressing with technology and not saying, well, because I don't need it, I'm not going to look at it. Well, that's not a great perspective. I didn't need TikTok. Should I have ignored it? No. Like I should have gone in and learned it. You know, I didn't need the SEO, but I understood it was important, but I didn't need it because our business was thriving. Well, it turns out we were thriving on word of mouth alone. Like we somehow have become this like massive powerhouse in Arizona through word of mouth. Like people, the words Deering Acting Studio are searched a ton in Google. But when you search something like Phoenix Acting Classes, you can't find us. It's crazy. And I'm going, how do we do what we've done? Like, this is nuts. I don't even know what's going to happen once we put all these pieces together. Everybody's just going to go, oh, dang, this place is really cool. I mean, I fully expect we're about to open soon. And when we open the doors here, the floodgates are going to come in. Like, it's like unbelievable. So it's exciting to know this, and it's exciting to admit it. It's exciting to admit your flaws and to go, okay, this is where I'm weak. Let me not make that choice again. Let me admit that this is something I did. It's my fault. Okay, cool. Now move forward. Instead of trying to blame somebody else, you blame you. And you go, instead of saying, well, I didn't need it, so I didn't do it, you go, yeah, I had a limited mentality. And I thought back then I didn't need it, so I wouldn't use it. I wish I had this new mentality back then. I would have been working on it before I needed it. So I was prepared for when I did need it. And then you go, okay, cool. But the new Vicki does that. That's how she operates from now on. So when the new piece of technology comes out, because it will, you know, like the phone you used to be afraid of, now you're not, something new will come out, and it's going to be the hologram, whatever, and you're going to go, wow, I'm too good for the hologram. I got to just do text now, you know. And it's like, no, like you better learn the hologram because that's what everyone's going to be on. Take the time to learn it. Will it take you longer? Maybe. But do the 80-20 principle, put in 20% of the work to get 80% of the enjoyment. And then from now on, you're not going to be afraid of things. You'll always sort of be ahead of it.
Right. And I think that like I said, the Deering Acting Studio, I mean, not to be biased because some people think I am, and maybe I am, but I, of course, have known you since you were a child. So I've seen you grow up. I've seen, you know, what you've done, and what you've accomplished is just amazing to me. And to others, your positivity and just your change in life about things, and passing on that, you know, faith and love to other people that that you changed their life. I mean, I was around in your life and didn't know I needed to change, you know, and yet you told me and were positive with me, and I feel like it was a game changer for me. I mean, I really was down in the dumps. I didn't feel very good about myself or everything, but I still was a happy person on the outside. You know, I still did everything for everybody. Nobody knew, you know, but on the inside, I was hurting about a lot of things, you know, but I never got the help. I never reached out to anybody. I never talked to anybody about it because, like, I didn't want to burden them. And that's one of the things, too, when you said, oh, just ask for help. Well, I always, oh, they're busy. You know, I don't want to burden them with my problem. You know,
yeah, and you remember what I said there for that response? What I said was, remember how good it feels for you to help others. Remember how much right. You love helping others. If you don't reach out for help, you don't give them the opportunity to do that for you. And that's the thing. Like, let people be your hero. Stop trying to be, you know, covering everything up. Reach out and say, hey, do you want to be my hero? Of course I do. Like, everybody wants to be the hero in the story, so they get to be your hero in this area just by you admitting you're weak. I mean, I do it constantly. I am. That's my number one thing is to tell everybody how weak I am and can I get help and learn. I mean, because I love it. So yeah, when you figure out that mentality, it's a game changer. So, and thank you for saying all that, Aunt Vicki. It's really nice to know that the impact that we're having, and I can tell you that I take zero credit for this. I mean, we've been trying to help people since day one. I've had a lot of things go my way. Had a lot of grace given to me. My parents have been very good to me. And then a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I had a major life transition, and I give all the glory to God. He came into my life in a very, very huge way, and I've been impacted by the Spirit and just fueled with this motivation to get out there and help people in a whole new way and live my life in a new way to try to get people curious and excited about changing their own lives. So
you have to sometimes just have it, say, because I'm very faithful myself, and you just say, I give it up to God. There's nothing else I can do about this.
That's right.
I'm going to be positive, but I know. And one of the cases, is my son Brian and my other son Joey. They have, a medical issue, but and it's tough, because as a mother, you want them not to hurt.
Right.
And you're a father, so you know that, and all the other mothers and fathers out there know that, and you want to help them, but when there's nothing you can do, you feel helpless. And that's when you just like you fall on the grunt. You're just like, there's nothing I can do about this, and I'm so scared and worried, and I'm so upset that they're in pain.
So I want to end the show on this little metaphor right here, which I think is really powerful. A lot of times in the Bible, God, our Lord, is described as the Father. And so there's a Father, and we are His children. And I've had this image in my mind for quite a while, and it's really interesting to think about. So I have a 1-year-old. He's been going through his infancy stage, and he's just getting into now being 1. But there's something interesting is when I hold that child in my hands, his amount of faith and trust in me is 100% endless. And I can throw him in the air, and I can catch him, and I can throw him upside down, and there's zero fear. He knows that I got him. As the kids start to get older, as you start to do certain things, they start to want to hold on, and they start to, fear has come into their lives, and it's harder to trust the Father because they know what it feels like to bang their head against the wall. And so they want to like hold on, but what's interesting is when they try to hold on, it makes it harder to do what I'm going to do, and their attempt at doing that actually causes more harm to them, like a potential of more harm, and definitely causes less fun because I can't do as much with them because they're resisting my help. And so I think about this idea of if my infant child was hurting, he'd be weightless in my arms, and I could help him and make him feel better because he gives over everything, right? So for me, when I'm hurting, I have to understand that I am that baby. So in your life, you were talking about your boys who are sick. When they're sick, you hurt. So when you hurt, you have to give over lifelessly to your Father and let Him take all the brunt of everything. And it's so hard to think about that, but if you could just be limp and say, that's what it means, like I really give it up to you completely. You're in charge, take it over. When you do that, things tend to just work out, like they go better. And it's not usually the way you thought it was going to go, but it's like there is a light at the end of the tunnel somehow. And I love that metaphor, this idea of if you're in this place where you're feeling like you got no answers, try to let go and give all the glory up to God and just let Him do what He's going to do in your life, because if you do that, your life will be forever changed, I promise, and He will get you through whatever the obstacle that you're facing. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. This is Mornings with Matt. Sure appreciate you being on the show. Aunt Vicki, you are a great guest. Amazing, amazing. And don't forget, if you're watching out there, please do like, subscribe, and share our channel, share the show today. I know Aunt Vicki's questions brought up a lot of really good topics, and if you think somebody's out there that could really benefit from this information, just share this video with them. Hopefully we can impact a lot of people this year. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.